All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make a YouTube video here. This is going to require a little bit of prefacing, the prefacing. But we're going to be spending a lot of our time in the gear planner over here, and the rest of our time we're going to be spending on this thing over here. All right, so before I talk about this, have to explain some history with me and Paladin and TBC. So what happened was back in, I don't know, it was like 2018 or something like that when TBC Classic re-released or came back out again, right? I got on a henhouse server, made a bunch of videos on the subject, did a bunch of PvP testing, trying to figure out what gear was good and why on a Paladin, what tactics to use. Ended up getting to the point where I was like beating every class in 1v1. And then Blizzard came out with some kind of like free boosting, paid boosting, free mount, whatever the fuck for TBC back in the day. And I basically ended up boycotting TBC, so I didn't actually play TBC at all. But I did end up coming back before Wrath of the Lich King to level up my character and get him basically ready for Wrath of the Lich King. I got, if I recall correctly, you could buy, I want to say, yeah, Vengeful Gladiator gear, pretty much off the auction, not off the auction house, but from the vendors. And then I did a bunch of arenas and got like, full Gladiator. And it was around about that time I really got to see, both in the open world and in arena, I actually got like real combat experience. What percentage of my theory crafting survived contact with the enemy? That was also when I figured out that Paladin Rogue in 2's arena, especially the Paladin that I'm building, is absolutely fucking insane and amazing. So what we're doing here, however, is we're re-examining everything, especially since I've learned a bunch in Classic World of Warcraft in the years since then. Re-examining the actual build, the gearing, looking a little deeper into what gear is actually available, and basically just refining the build and its gear based upon what I've learned since then and what I've learned during that time period, okay? So, with all that said, prefacing out of the way, we need to talk about these two things right here. They're going to be by far the most important concept as we start looking at the gearing and why. Let me take your water really fast. All right, so everyone is probably aware of the fact in most video games, let's Control Z that, of how increasing your character's damage using different stats, like take League of Legends as an example, it would be like, increasing your damage, increasing your attack speed, increasing your critical strike, and the actual effects that will have on your overall DPS output. And if you've done any kind of math on the subject whatsoever, you'll know that splitting the damage increases evenly over the modifiers. We refer to this type of modification as multiplicative. There's additive and then there's multiplicative. If this stuff was additive, this would all of this together would only be a plus 300% damage bonus, or less than that actually. But actually that's not true. It'd be exactly 300%. No, it would be less than that. An increased damage bonus, but because they all percent together, they're multiplicative. But we'll just showcase the math here really fast. Let's say we did 100 damage, and we basically gained plus 100% increased damage. So we basically have to multiply this by 2. Then if we had 100% critical strike chance on top of that, that's another times 2 multiplier. And then if we like doubled our attack speed, that's going to be like another times 2 multiplier on that. The reason why it's plus 700% damage, not plus 800% damage, is because we did start at a base of like 100. So we'd have to take this number and reduce it by 100, and that's going to tell us exactly what the hell the effect of plus one of putting them all not putting all of our eggs evenly dispersed and not in one basket actually does for us. If we put all 3 of these in one basket, like, 300% increased damage, what would end up happening is 100, and we'd literally multiply that by 300% increased damage. Am I doing this right? Yeah. I guess I multiply by, 4. It would be 400%, right? Yeah. Because 100% damage would be plus 100, plus 100, plus 100. So yeah, we'd be at 400, and that would be a 300% increase in damage. Okay, cool. No, it checks out. So anyways, because it's multiplicative, you get way, 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 way more value out of your gear if you're spreading it around kind of evenly. Now, I want to take this. Let's get some Control-Z action here. Really? We can't do anything? Okay, there we go. And look at the value of durability by comparison, okay? So we just looked at what happens if in World of Warcraft we, increase our, attack power. That'll increase our flat damage effectively. If we put points into the critical strike stat, that'll increase our attack speed. And if we put points into the haste stat, or whatever the equivalent of is cooldown reduction, or whatever the hell your game has, that would be the haste stat over there. But what does durability, worship at the altar of durability by contrast, actually look like? Well, you'll notice very quickly that on a hybrid class like a Paladin, especially an incredibly durable hybrid class like a Paladin, that has the capability of self-healing itself and blah, 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 and is a melee-oriented class, the value of worshiping at the altar of durability over the value of worshiping at the altar of damage is noticeably more efficient on Paladin, both in classic World of Warcraft and in TBC. It's kind of even more so in TBC for reasons that we'll get into. There's some serious synergies for worshiping at the altar of DPS, but worshiping at the altar of durability seems to be significantly better. So, for example, here, if we gain a doubling effect on how much armor we're wearing, or the effect of our armor, and we gained a doubling effect on our standing HP, and then we doubled DR, stands for damage reduction, however effective that is. Before factoring any other weird things, we get close to since it's all multiplicative, we get very close to the plus 200, 700%, the same effect, basically. This is not entirely true, theoretically, because increasing our let's say I've got let's pull up a calculator here really quick. Let's say I have a 70% damage reduction from my armor, and then I try to add a 30% damage reduction on top of that. What will happen will be, it's not multiplicative, or it's not additive, I should say. What will happen will be that 30 damage that's getting through our 70% armor damage reduction would itself be reduced by 30% from Argent Defender, for example. So we end up taking a 79% damage reduction. If you factor that in to effective HP gain, however, it ends up being about right. So let me try to figure this out here. Let's say I had 5,000 HP and I multiplied that. Well, that's not going to be. Let's say I had 500 HP and I multiply that by 79. That would be 21. Yeah. 0.21. Okay, cool. 105. So we're actually very close. Let's go 490 times 0.21. See what happens there. Getting closer. 480 times 0.21. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's about it's closer to 470 times 0.21. We're just gonna do this for the sake of double checking. 0.21. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so our effective HP gain, or our effective HP pool has been increased by 475%, or whatever the hell it is, with the increased 30% damage reduction. So I'm going to do no. It's going to be closer to 300, I do believe, would be my guess. times probably 350. 350 times 0.3. Okay, getting pretty close. 340 times 0.3 equals, getting closer. 335 times 0.3 equals, okay, cool. So basically that plus 30% increased DR when we already had 70% armor damage reduction, even though it looks like in a roundabout way it's giving you like diminishing returns, that basically shot up the standing HP from plus 335% to plus 475%. So significantly making the class more durable. So it's hard to do the math, but it does actually pan out kind of that way, that there is a substantial increase in durability, even from stacking additional durability mechanics on top of each other. It gets to a point, however, increasing durability, where you're far better off ceasing to increase your durability. It's like it's a beaten horse. It's dead. No one's going to be able to kill you. You're going to be not gonna, no one even in twos is going to be able to kill you. So at that point, you really want to start focusing on increasing your DPS by contrast. But I just want to really beat home the insanity that we're about to see on the gearing over here. So the gearing on here basically has 15 stamina gems in every single stamina slot that it can possibly have. And the reason for that is because once you have Worship at the Altar of all the percent damage reductions, the best thing to do is to get as much stamina on your character as you can possibly get your hands on. And you're like, why the hell are you, like, ignoring... what's a good example here? Yeah, so I'm ignoring this plus 3 resilient socket bonus here, and I'm ignoring this plus 4 critical strike rating bonus here, and I'm ignoring, what else we got going on? Plus 2 resilient socket bonus here. It's like, nope, 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 we just want stamina at this point. Mathematically speaking, and for our purposes, we just want stamina. Alright, cool. So let's talk about some of the weird nuances. So, not only does worshipping at the altar of durability increases increase our standing effective HP. What that means is if you were stunned or asleep or weren't catching any heals, or literally if you were AFK from your keyboard, how much effective HP, how much effective damage does the enemy need to do to you before you die? So you might have 1,000 hit points and a 50% damage reduction. Well, your effective HP at that point would be like 2,000 hit points, because your damage reduction is effectively doubling the amount of HP you effectively have. However, there's other weird synergetic effects where it also increases the efficiency of any healing effects on you, and it increases the mana efficiency of your healing, especially if you're willing to downrank, and or you just don't have to heal yourself anywhere near as much. There are DPS increasers. Healing difficulty, difficult calculate value of healing. Yeah, okay. There are also DPS increasers that happen due to increasing your durability, especially on a melee class like a Paladin. So basically, Paladins cannot both DPS and heal themselves or anybody else at the same time. So the longer you can put off needing to heal yourself because you're just that fucking durable, the more time you can spend DPSing the shit out of your enemies, which has all kinds of benefits to it. That's one of the major issues with Holy Shock Paladin in Arena. Holy Shock Paladin, or just Holy Paladin in general in Arena, they don't have enough durability that they can ignore healing, the need to heal themselves while they're healing their ally all that well. Also, they're very susceptible to being blown up out of existence by like double DPS comps. They're just not. Those are kind of the two bad situations that they can find themselves in. So, for example, if there's DPS flying around all over the place and the Holy Paladin feels the need to heal both his ally and to heal himself, that can be a very difficult job to juggle, because He doesn't. The Holy Shock Paladins just don't have the kind of durability to be able to ignore their health bar for as long as they would like to. Whereas this Paladin doesn't give a shit. He's just like, yeah, I don't care. I got 30% life. No. We're gonna heal our rogue friend first, and then we might consider healing ourselves. Yeah, so there are some DPS increasers. The other thing to take note is that increasing plus healing on this character also has 2 beneficial effects. Actually has multiple beneficial. My bad. It has even more beneficial effects. So yeah. Let's not bury the lead. Okay, so the first advantage of putting plus healing on your paladin is that you can actually now heal, and it actually fucking does something. When you don't have any plus healing gear on your paladin, you might as well be pissing into the wind while you're trying to heal. Basically, all healing does when you don't have any plus healing on your paladin is rather than your teammate dying in 10 seconds, they're now going to die in 20. And it's just like, okay, whoop-de-fucking-do, he's still going to die. Whereas once you get enough plus healing, you can start actually you can do what you do in Classic World of Warcraft. You can actually start out-healing the incoming DPS and then basically reset the fight in your favor. 1 second, we yell at some dogs. Hey, shut up! Thank you. They'll keep barking if I don't tell them to shut up. It's really fascinating. All right. It also increases your overall mana efficiency. You don't have to heal yourself as much. The other things that it does for you is that if the enemy is DPSing you and you're basically like, ah, crap, I have to stop DPSing and start healing myself, the game becomes a fascinating game of like pure math for an uncomfortably long amount of time. And the math is basically what's the average incoming DPS of the enemy into my paladin versus what's my average HPS output. And if you are not significantly if you do not have significantly more healing per second than your enemy has DPS on you, it's going to take you forever to heal back to full and stop healing yourself and go back on the offensive, right? So this basically means that you have less downtime, which means that you can press W towards the enemy much quicker and get your DPS back on the target. This is one of the real negatives to playing a paladin in World of Warcraft in general, is that you cannot both heal yourself and DPS simultaneously. So whatever DPS you have is completely wasted while you're DPSing. Whatever plus healing you have, strangely, is not wasted. My bad. Whatever DPS you have is wasted while you're healing yourself, but whatever healing you have while you're DPSing is in a roundabout way not wasted. And the reason for that is because if you need to stop and heal yourself, fuck off. What I mean by that is, my brain's dying here. A lot of little complexities. I'm drinking your water here. Get my thoughts together. So the stronger your heals are, the longer you can like continue to DPS and let your HP bar drop before you're like, I need to start healing myself. Once you start healing yourself, you're able to recover back to full life and then continue your DPS much, much faster. On top of that, you can actually recover back to HP. That option is even on the table to begin with. So if you don't have any plus healing gear and you're basically a pure DPS, the option of stopping and healing yourself outside of using bubble is just not on the table. And the option of healing your ally to any extent is not on the table. Shut up! Jesus Christ. Okay. I don't know what they're barking at. It's probably a delivery or something outside. What the hell else is there to talk about here? All the above. Okay. Yeah, and then there's other weird effects of increasing your stamina HP bar, where increases to stamina, their value is incredibly difficult to calculate, because the value is the difference between being alive and healing yourself versus dead and no healing. So if you're a pure, let's say you're a pure DPS paladin who stacked a bunch of stamina. So we don't have damage reduction. We don't have plus healing. All we have is a shit ton of damage and a thicker than normal HP bar. You'll find yourself in a situation where you're alive and not dead. Therefore, you can keep DPSing. So your thicker HP bar is in fact a buff to your damage. But you can't heal yourself, right? So it's like alive and still DPSing is really valuable. Alive and DPSing, but we can also heal ourselves if we need to is even better, if that makes any sense. So it's very difficult to articulate and very difficult to calculate, but there is a metric shit fuck ton of positive feedback loop synergy when you begin worshiping at the altar of durability. What else is there to say? In TBC, Paladins get access to Seal of Vengeance, and Seal of Vengeance is actually a massive DPS increase for Paladins, but it has a ramp-up time on it, because you got to get it to 5 stacks before it actually really does its thing. And if you're swinging like a 3.6 speed weapon, let's pull up a calculator here, 3.6 times 4, because that's about how long it's going to take. This means you're going to have to DPS on something for upwards of like 15 seconds before you can actually get the 5 stacks going. And that's a length of time that pure DPS paladins don't really have available to them. So not only that, the Vengeance what am I even talking about? Seal of Vengeance does not scale very well at all with the attack power DPS paladins. It scales like a motherfucker, however, with spell power. And since in TBC most plus healing gear has spell power also on it, hopefully you can see the synergies there. All right, so before we actually look at the gear, we're going to talk about breakpoints. These breakpoints are for Phase 3 or Phase 4. I can't remember. There's like 5 phases in TBC. But most of the henhouse PvP servers are paladins running around in Vengeful Gladiator gear, which is like midway through the expansion. It's kind of like your BWL or your AQ40 gear or whatever the hell, somewhere between there. It's probably closer to BWL. So these stats are for Phase 3 or Phase 4 or whatever the heck. And they might change in Phase 1. I'll have to check out. I'll look at it. But since I've never PvP'd under those conditions, I really have no idea. But you're going to see in the gearing that we're basically compensating for any unseen possibilities anyways. So the first thing is that in 1v1s, you want about 11k HP. Keep in mind that most classes in TBC have between 9 and a 10k HP. Basically, if classes are completely ignoring their HP bar in favor of just pure DPS or pure plus healing, they'll be running around about 9k HP. If they start, like, putting in jewels and enchants and stuff that are, like, mixing and matching the stats, so, like, stamina plus healing or stamina DPS jewels and whatnot, enchants and whatnot, they'll go up to about 10k. Running around at 11k HP is very uncommon. So it's literally like 10 to 20% more HP than you're actually used to. You cannot support a larger HP bar even with the plus healing gear. This is also true. So there's a relationship you don't have this you kind of have this relationship in Classic, but not really. In TBC, there is a very clear relationship because you're in a chip burst meta. You're not in a burst meta like Classic World of Warcraft. You're in a chip burst meta. Basically, everyone in TBC has between 9 to 10k HP, and the vast majority of bursts in the game are between 6 to 7k HP bursts. The only one that gets a truly terrifying WTF burst that I know of in the game is a Fire Mage, Palm Pyro Fire Mage. And you have bubble, so it's kind of like whatever. Those guys can easily hit you for like 10k, but if you so much as sneeze in the direction of fire resist gear, It just they're a joke. Super easy to deal with. Let's drink your water here. But having a 11k HP, basically what'll happen, you can't support a thicker HP bar. The reason for this is because when you stop and heal yourself as a paladin, you're basically going to be doing like 2 holy lights and then pressing W towards your enemy again. The only time you wouldn't do that is if when you're stopping to heal yourself, the enemy has also stopped and they're like DPSing on you. That's a completely different scenario. But the most common scenario is you're forced to stop and heal yourself. You have a very limited time to heal yourself before you have to start pressing W towards the enemy again, because they're just going to be eating and drinking or mounting up. Either option is kind of unacceptable. And you just don't have time to do any kind of healing. The same thing happens in Classic World of Warcraft. You have time for 2 holy lights, and then you got to start pressing W in a direction again. 2 holy lights is going to barely top off an 11k HP bar. And even then, you kind of need like one of those to crit to really get it topped off. If you try putting on any, let's say I put on like 13k HP to the 1v1 Paladin build, the next thing you know, you're just going to be forever at like 11k HP. You will not be able to have the time or the space to get that HP bar topped off the way you would want it, which means all that additional HP is completely wasted. However, Arena is a completely different animal. In Arena, you want to go up to like 13k HP, and really what you're trying to get to in the grand scheme of things is you're trying to get to, let me think, you're trying to get somewhere in the vicinity of 16k, 17k effective standing hit points. The reason for this is because double Palm Pyro Mage in 2s is an incredibly common and kind of oppressive arena comp. Basically, it's 2 fucking fire mages that are going to like Kamehameha on your ass to a rather alarming degree. And each one of those mages can burst for about 9k, give or take. They're not going to both burst on you at the same time because you have bubble as a paladin. But what they will do is one guy will do like, generic damage. The other guy will do a full burst on you. And if you survive that with bubble, once bubble is down, they'll just do it all over again. And you're looking at like one fire mage doing like 9k burst and the other fire mage doing like, a 4k burst. Actually, probably more like a 6k burst on you or something like that. And you just want to have enough standing effective HP that you can survive that nonsense. Interestingly, double rogue comp is also an incredibly oppressive comp in 2's Arena. And whatever the hell durability you need to survive against double like Palm Pyro Mage or double Frost Mage is also the same amount of durability you're going to need to be able to survive a double Rogues. Rogues are absolutely not fucking around in their DPS in TBC. It's actually objectively terrifying how much damage they do. Like, you're going to be a paladin in like full plate mail with a fucking shield, with like Argent Defender, like all kinds of physical damage reduction, and you're going to be like, why did those 2 rogues take me to below 20% life before I was able to do anything? It's like, that's literally what's going to happen to you. Like, what the fuck? So increasing your durability or your HP pool is kind of a big deal in Arena, especially in the early stages, the early phases, because how do I put this? There's not a lot of resilience gear going around in the early phases, and on top of that, the mages are kind of at their most powerful because their skills are like, fresh off the trainer. It's really hard to explain, but you basically just don't have enough HP to really be able to deal with in the early phases otherwise. What else is there to say? In duels, open world PvP is a bit different, but in duels and open world PvP, you're generally better off exchanging that 200 or 2,000 hit points for MP5. And or plus healing, like one of the two. So what happens to my the difference between my dueling and my arena gear is that my arena gear has every single gem slot full of stamina gems, and it doesn't give a fuck about the synergy. Just give me stamina, give me stamina, give me stamina until I get somewhere in the vicinity of 13k HP. My dueling gear, however, has every single slot as MP5. Like every single slot as MP5. Once again, not giving two shakes of a shit about the synergy involved. Or the socket bonuses or whatever. MP5 is a very weird stat in TBC. I think I've said this in another video. But if I fill my character's gem slots and full of spirit gear, or like spirit gems, and I fill them full of MP5 gens, the amount of mana regeneration will be identical, and that's if I'm just standing still. So clearly spirit is not over... Spirit is not... I'm trying to say MP5 is better than Spirit in TBC. The reason why they do this is a bunch of classes in TBC get stats deeper in their talent tree, which basically say they gain spell power equal to like 30% of how much spirit they have. And so spirit is balanced around the fact that they've given out those things to other classes, not so much around the fact that spirit regeneration should be more... It should be more MP5 back to you as a class, because you're not going to have 100% spirit uptime while you're in combat. Moral of the story is, put on the MP5, it's better than the spirit. But if this is classic WoW, that would be reversed. What else is there to say? You want to have about 1,400 plus healing on your Paladin. This is kind of a minimum. Both for dueling and for the arena. I personally prefer to try to get up to 1,500, and I do this specifically in case... because I might be in one of those situations where my enemy is getting good RNG on their DPS, and I'm getting bad RNG on my heals. At 1,500 HP, that situation won't be at anywhere near as detrimental as it will be at 1,400 plus healing. As a HP, 1,500 plus healing. So I prefer to try to get somewhere in the vicinity of 1,500 plus healing. This is, if I wore on my Paladin absolutely nothing but plus healing gear, and I possibly had gem slots full of, like, half stamina, half plus healing, so I'm not really ignoring my stamina, but I'm not really, like, all in on the plus healing. I think my plus healing starts being around 1,700-ish. So this 1,500 number is when you are pretty all in on plus healing anyways. But 1,400 plus healing is the bare minimum you need to be able to start effectively out-healing incoming DPS. In duels, what the 1,400 plus healing does is it allows you to start using more Flash of Lights to heal you than Holy Lights. So you'll cast some Holy Lights, but you'll also be using a lot of Flash of Lights. With a bunch of plus healing, the Flash of Lights are noticeably more mana efficient than the Holy Lights. And 1v1 fighting is more of an endurance fight than it is anything else. So you just want this amount of plus healing. It's overkill in 1v1 theoretically until you start factoring in its mana efficiency qualities, and then the 1,400 becomes kind of necessary. In the arena, ain't nobody concerned about mana efficiency. It's all about, can these Holy Lights actually do their fucking job when two people are trying to kill my ally in the arena. And it is at 1,400 or 1,500 plus healing, somewhere around there, where the answer to that question is in fact yes. So nowhere you do not Flash of Light in the arena like that. That's unless the arena has devolved into like a 1v1 between you and some other guy. In the twos arena, you're not Flash of Lighting. It's just not happening. It's just a waste of time. You might as well Holy Light, eat the mana lack of mana efficiency, and just continue DPSing. By far the best course of action. Spell power minimums. This is a spell power build paladin. Seal of Vengeance and blah, 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 whatnot. You're trying to get around 500-ish spell power, and you're trying to do that ideally while wielding a two-handed weapon. It's also important to note that if you can only get this plus 500 spell power through activating a burst trinket, that is perfectly fine for this build, for a variety of reasons that we'll talk about once we get to the actual build. But the reason for that is because... How do I put this? This paladin does a combination of trying to grind you down over time, but it also has a very clear burst strategy and burst window. So, for example, when you jump on your target, the first thing all you're really interested in doing is getting all the prerequisites together. So you're like, judging justice on the target to slow them down, and then you're starting to beat on them with either a two-handed weapon or a slow one-handed weapon. You're just trying to get 5 out of 5 vengeance stacks. And once you get 5 out of 5 vengeance stacks, that's when you can actually pull the trigger on any kind of burst that you want to attempt on the target. But to stack those 5 out of 5 vengeance stacks is going to take you 12, 15 seconds, somewhere around there, depending. Vengeance has a 100% proc chance at 2.8 seconds swing time on your weapon. So it is possible for you to swing a slow one-handed weapon and stack up Vengeance on the enemy as quickly as possible. But you might as well do damage. So, swinging a two-handed weapon will get the job done. It'll just take a little bit longer. But you really only need this 500 spell power for when you have 5 out of 5 Vengeance on the target and you're getting ready to pull the trigger on your actual offense. The other reason why you only need 500 spell power with a burst trinket specifically is, and we'll go over to the actual gearing tree over here and look at the talents, is because you have the best bursting talent in the entire game deep into the prot tree, and that is Sacred Duty. I will read it really quick. Increase your total stamina by 6%. Reduce the cooldown of your Divine Shield spell, that's your bubble, by 60 seconds. So now it's only a 4-second cooldown rather than a 4-minute cooldown rather than a 5-minute cooldown. Not the biggest deal. In duels, that's a big deal. In a world PvP, that's a big deal. But in arena, not the biggest deal in the world. But this last one here is WTF, what the fuck? Which is, and reduces the attack speed penalty by 100%. So normally when you bubble, when you bubble as a paladin, your attack speed is reduced by 50%. When you bubble with Sacred Duty, your attack speed is reduced by 0%, meaning it's as if you didn't bubble for the purposes of doing damage. The reason why that synergizes spectacularly well with a burst trinket is because the counter to seeing an enemy burst in arena is usually to throw CC at them, right? If you see a paladin popping wings, now is the time to stun them, fear them, cyclone them, whatever the fuck you got to do to keep that paladin off of you while they are clearly pulling the trigger on whatever burst that they have, right? Wings and TBC can also be dispelled, spells stolen by mages, all that kind of crap. Which makes Wings not all that good. Wings also activates Forbearance. So you can't you have to wait a minute before you can bubble after you pop Wings. Sacred Duty is easily the most broken burst spell a paladin has access to, because not only are you bubbled, so you're completely immune to CC. But you don't have to spend any GCDs while you're completely immune to any CC. You're immune to slow effects and all that crap. So basically, all you're doing is running people down and seal twisting on them. And what this means is when you pair it with like a burst trinket, you get to use that entirety of the. You're guaranteed to be able to use the entirety of that burst trinket's value as just pure damage into your enemy, and there's really not a goddamn thing they could do about it. The only class in the entire fucking game that can do anything about this is a priest, but the priest has to stand still, root their ass in place, and cast like a 2-second mass dispel, and then hope it actually succeeds in dispelling your bubble. And you have to hope because you also have Stoicism, which says reduce the chance your spells will be dispelled by an additional 30%. So sometimes they go through all that effort to mass dispel your bubble off you, and it just doesn't work anyways. But usually the kill target for you is the priest anyways. So it's like while you're wailing on them like a motherfucker, you and your like rogue buddy or whatever the hell in 2's arena, if you think there's an opportunity for that motherfucker to stop whatever the hell he is doing and try to remove this goddamn bubble, you're out of your goddamn mind. It is not happening. So this is easily the best bursting thing in the entire game, and it's the reason why, even though you want 500-ish spell power, you can get away with only having... you can only get away with only hitting that much spell power from a burst trinket specifically, if that makes any sense. This build that I'm showing, I think, doesn't actually have 500 spell power, but I'm going to go try it in arena anyways, and I'm probably not going to be too terribly disappointed. But let's actually look at the build really quick here. So we've got increase damage and healing done by spells. Okay. So there's a few ways to build this paladin. The first way to build it is to have like 4 pieces of lamellar. So we're going to be talking about the lamellar gear and the ornate gear. The ornate gear is your plus healing gear, and the lamellar is your spell power gear. And it's kind of unclear to me which version of this paladin that you want. There's a version that takes 4 pieces of lamellar, and you to get the 4 set bonus to reduce your Hammer of Justice by 10 seconds. That paladin build is the one that I have experience playing. What this paladin build has is it doesn't have eye for an eye, and it doesn't have a point in vindication. It strips 3 points that out of the tree, and out of the retribution tree, and it gets 3 points into Hammer of Justice. That way, with the gear, your Hammer of Justice has a 35-second cooldown. This might be the way to go. I really don't know, but I'm going to try it because after playing TBC and blah, 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 I've learned the value of eye for an eye. So I'm going to rock eye for an eye, and since I don't have any points whatsoever in improved Hammer of Justice in the protection tree, this build basically just leans into that and doesn't even bother reducing it by a further 10 seconds. I'm also partnered with a rogue, so having like, a 6-second stun on a 35-second cooldown, while it's fucking amazing, kind of has anti-synergies when you're in 2's arena partied with a rogue. The reason for this is because you and the rogue, which is by far your best comp with this build, are going to target the enemy healer 100% of the time. So the idea of, hey, let me stun the DPS of the enemy comp while we're trying to burst down this healer on their team doesn't really benefit us like whatsoever. Whereas if the enemy healer is like stopping physically moving and trying to heal themselves, the rogue has wound poison, so minus 50% to their healing. They're going to be having to run the gambit of all kinds of spell pushback and kicks from the rogue already. And if you really piss the rogue off, they might also have mind-numbing poison, which is going to make the cast time on that heal increased by like 100%. Homie's not hard casting heals worth a damn anytime soon, and even if he gets them off, it really doesn't matter. So the value of having there's value in having 1 Hodge stun in the arena, but there's not a lot of value in having a quick second Hodge stun in the arena from what I've seen. And duels are a completely different story. Having a Hodge stun on a 35-second cooldown is worth its fucking weight in gold. Um, yeah, but not necessary, which is kind of interesting. So anyways, we're gonna do this build here. What else is there to say? Okay, yeah. So it has 2-piece Lamellar. Okay, and then I think it has 2-piece Ornate. Only 2-piece Ornate. What the fuck? Like a 2-piece Ornate Lamellar. Where is the third piece? Is it 5? Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so we have 2-piece Ornate, and then we have 2-piece Lamellar on the gear, and we're doing this just so that we can get the double resilience bonus. That's the other way you can gear your set bonuses. This 35% resilience is not nothing. It's like 0.9% or some crap like that. Basically, how PvP resilience works in TBC is this number you see here of 8.45% resilience. That's it's going to be 9% if, when I judge something, or well over 9% when I judge something. But basically, it reduces the likelihood of you being crit by the enemy by this number. So it's going to reduce the enemy's critical strike chance against me by 9%. It reduces how much damage you take from critical hits by 9%. And it reduces the effectiveness of like mana and HP drains by 9%. Whoop de effing do. Most people will swear by having a high PvP resilience on your, like, you know, Paladin, this class or that class. And that a lot of that stems from the fact that they don't really understand the insane value that you get from mixing and matching durability, if that makes any sense. So a lot of people will look at this PvP resilience rating and being like, that's kind of low for arena. You want to have like, you know, 10%. You want to have like 11%, somewhere around there. But mathematically speaking, the answer is no, that's stupid once you factor in all the other factors going on. What else is there to say? Let's look at stats really quickly here before I get into the like horrifying details. So you'll see that we're very close to 1300 HP. If I even sneeze on this thing with kings, we're going to have 1300 HP. We do have kings in the talent tree. The thing does have Argent Defender. It does have Spell Warding. It does have Holy Shield. It has 1 point in toughness. We ignore that. It has improved Righteous Fury, which is a 6% physical damage reduction. There's a weird debate as to whether or not you put 3 points in improved Righteous Fury or you put the 3 points into toughness. The reason for this is because a lot of enemy spellcasting comps are going to be able to purge or dispel or spell steal, like mages can spell steal your Righteous Fury off of you. It's not as easy as you would think because you do have stoicism, right? You have a chance to resist it. But against enemy spell damage dealers, improved Righteous Fury isn't really going to be there for you the vast majority of the time, especially in the arena. However, against, like, you know, rogues or DPS comps, they usually can't dispel this, but sometimes they can if they have like a priest or a shaman with them. But against like double rogue and some of the really scary like double melee DPS comps, double hunter I think is also theoretically a thing. God, I can't remember if hunters can also dispel in TBC. I think they can, but I can't remember if they can or not. I think it's like a 1 hunter spec survival or something that can dispel my crap. I can't really remember. It's really fucking annoying. That might be Wrath of the Lich King, though. Like, don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it's TBC, though. But this thing is dispellable, which kind of reduces its value. But it's also there for you kind of when you need it most against, like, double rogue. Whereas toughness would also be there against double rogue, theoretically. You can also do some annoying things with improved Righteous Fury, such as, let's say a double mage comp turns you into a sheep, and they, like, spell steal improved Righteous Fury from you, and they start doing that whole, you know, one guy bursts on you, and then once you've used your bubble, the other guy bursts on you type routine. When the second burst is coming, or you can feel it coming, you can't bubble yourself anymore, But what you can do is activate a new, fresh Righteous Fury. And the 6% physical damage reduction will be there for you when you're eating a bunch of Pyroblasts and shit like that. Because the enemy mages do not have the time and the space to turn you into a sheep again a second time in order to burst on you. They literally don't have that time and space because your rogue buddy is going to be tearing them a new asshole. So they basically just have to try to kill you through the improved Righteous Fury. You could easily put the points over here to toughness, though. You also have Argent Defender. Argent Defender is completely not fucking around and is a core aspect of this build. This is my raw HP. This is not my standing effective HP. Since we have Spell Warding and since we may or may not have improved Righteous Fury, a combination of Spell Warding and Argent Defender alone will make it so that you have like a 33% damage reduction when you fall below 30% life. Argent Defender has some interesting mechanics behind her in the sense that this thing activates... How do I explain this? You get the full value of Argent Defender no matter how the damage hits you, if that makes sense. So let's say that somebody hit me with enough damage that they took me from 100% life to 0% life, okay? I would still be alive with 30%, with 10% remaining HP, specifically because Argent Defender doesn't give a fuck. If you get hit with like 1,000 damage, let's say, and that 1,000, like half, like 500 points of damage, God damn it, what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to explain that the value of Argent Defender will actually activate midway between even a single hit. So if you got hit for 1,000 damage and 500 of that damage was your HP pool before you drop below 30% life, and the other 500 damage was what was taken out of you below 30% life, the first 500 points of damage would not be reduced by 30%, but the other 500 points of damage in that single 1,000 HP hit would be reduced by 30%. So you'd be hit for like 850 damage instead. Basically, there's no real way to cheat the Hangman when it comes to Argent Defender here. You're going to get the value out of it, whether you like it or not. Oh, it's less than 35% life. My bad. Okay, cool. So basically what that means is here, I have to go over here, and I'm just going to do 1,300 for the sake of my sanity. And I'm going to multiply that by 0.7. That's going to tell me how much... wait, I have to multiply that by 0.735. Let me pull up another calculator here. So let's calculate our standing effective HP on this stupid thing. So I need to take my raw HP, which is 1,300, or 13,000, and I got to multiply that by 0.65, and this is my HP pool before Argent Defender activates. And then if I do the same thing over here, except in reverse, multiply it by 0.35, this is my HP pool after Argent Defender activates. This number right here needs to be multiplied by 1.5%, because you still have things like spell warding, you still have your armor available to you. It's basically going to be like 33%. For the sake of our sanity. And then you have improved Righteous Fury, that might be there. We're just going to say plus 1.5. So you got to multiply this by the 1.5, because that's the a 20% damage reduction is a plus 25% increase in effective HP. A 33% damage reduction is a plus 50%. And then, of course, a 50% damage reduction is a plus 100%. 66% is a plus 200%. 75% is a plus 400%. You get the idea. And then 80 is like times 5 or some shit like that. Okay, cool. So we do this. And then we add these fucking things together, and that will tell us what our actual effective standing HP is for the purposes of any spellcaster trying to kill us. You can see this paladin is getting very, very close to having standing effective HP against enemy spellcasters of the 1,600 that you really want it to be at. And if I start factoring in that 4% of this spell warding needed to be applied to all the additional damage, and they're going to spell steal kings off you, so we really can't do that. You know, we're pretty close to where we want to be. Also, I wouldn't fight a mage in this gear. We'll show you that in a second. So this is the actual plus healing setup, we should say. So if we look at the actual spell power down here, where's it at? Spell power. You can see that, ignore this because we're not DPSing preferably with a one-handed weapon, even though it's actually really good. Believe it or not, it's not bad to DPS with a one-handed weapon. We have 1550-ish plus healing. So we're very well within the HP breakpoint when we actually need to heal. But this is not what this Paladin's going to look like when it's DPSing. When this Paladin DPSing, I'm going to try to get my hands on Twin Blade of the Phoenix. Twin Blade of the Phoenix is, not only is it a PvE pickup from Tempest Keep, Kaelathos Tempest Keep. So you can see here it's phase 2. So not only can I get this thing pretty early, this thing has the most stamina of any two-handed weapon that you can possibly get in the entire game. And we're going to see that really fast, like what exactly it does to the stamina bar. So Imperium or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, so we're just going to fill this up with stamina sockets. It's like, oh, does it get an attack power bonus if I adhere to fuck you? So this puts, the two-handed weapon basically has more HP than the one-handed weapon. So I guarantee you if I redid the math properly, we're well within the HP breakpoint mark that we're trying to get to, which is 1600 standing effective HP. If we scroll down to what this has done to our spell power, our spell power is 400. We would prefer it to be 500, but we'll talk about that in a second. Plus healing has dropped to 1,000. You won't really be using this gear to heal yourself very often. If you need to heal yourself, you will do a one-hander and a shield swap. Let it shoot up to 1,500 plus healing in order to heal yourself. Yeah, but it's just the fact that not only are we wielding a two-handed weapon with a decent amount of DPS, we're also literally as stamina heavy as we can possibly be as this Paladin build here. What else is there to talk about? I need to open a different visual for us really quick here. That's Roblox Studio stuff. These are curses? No, that's Diablo 2. Where is the visual? Did I delete it? There's no fucking way I deleted it. It's hiding here somewhere. There it is. Immortality Protocol. Yeah, no, we don't want to save that. Okay, Immortality Protocol. All right, so I have these spread out by phases. So you can see we got phase 1 over here. That's not the right color. We got phase 1 stuff over here. We got phase 2 stuff over here. We got phase 3, and then we got phase 4. Now, Battle Master's Perseverance Trinket is easily the best trinket that you can get for PvP in the entire game. Once this thing becomes available in phase 3, I hope they give us like a downranked version of it earlier in the game. But if they don't, it takes basically Blizzard until phase 4 to realize that PvP might be a little... In 2's arena, people might not have enough HP and they could really use a trinket that'll give them HP on cooldown, and so they give everyone like a Battle Master's trinket. I don't know if this is available in phase 1 or 2 in TBC, or if they give us like downrated Battle Master trinkets. The fact that this thing is in phase 4 is a crime. But there is a very powerful synergy for your Paladin for any item that increases your maximum HP for a period of time while you are below 35% life and your Argent Defender is activated. Because when you're in Argent Defender mode, this thing is basically going to gain like a 50% increased effective bonus to it, right? So, if you're fighting double... what this trinket basically allows you to do, and we'll pull up a calculator here, is when you activate this trinket below 35% life, you're not gaining 1,750 increased HP. You're gaining whatever the hell this is multiplied by 1.5. 2,625 effective HP on your paladin, and that's against spell damage. If it was physical damage coming in, your Argent Defender is like an 80% damage reduction or some shit like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. We can actually calculate our physical damage reduction here really quick. So armor with the two-hander. Do I want to calculate with two? Yeah, sure. Why not? I think it's we'll do that. It's not that big of a deal. And we'll say it's a 50% damage reduction for your armor. So if I had 100 damage, I would need to divide this by 2 for the 50% damage reduction. Then I would need to multiply this by 0.7 for the 30% damage reduction from Argent Defender. And you can see that we're close to a 66% physical damage reduction even without wearing a fucking shield. So if I activated this trinket for my physical damage reduction purposes, I'd have to take this number and multiply it by 3. Right? 2, 3, yeah, 3. So it's worth 5,000. It's worth a fuck ass ton of durability on your paladin. So the reason why this thing is awesome is it can help bridge the gap against enemy bursts. So for example, if I'm facing 2 mages and they burst on me, I can easily activate this trinket and probably survive their burst without even having to bubble. And then I still have bubble available for their next burst. You get the idea. This thing is absolutely amazing. The way you use it offensively is if you're DPSing on somebody with your rogue friend, your rogue ally, and I guess he's called a partner technically. You just activate this thing when you fall below a 35% life, and basically what happens is it'll buy you a good 4 or 5 additional seconds of DPS on the target because of just how much effective HP that you've bought yourself. So it'll allow you, it doesn't increase your DPS while you're DPSing, but it doesn't allow you to DPS for longer before you need to stop and heal yourself. And that can often be the difference between an easy kill on the enemy healer or it taking a bit longer and being a little bit more sus, if that makes sense. So amazing, amazing trinket. The only problem with it is it comes out in phase 4, theoretically. However, I started looking into the possibility of stacking other push button gain flat HP effects later on. So first off, there's a trinket you can get in phase 3 that basically does the exact same thing. It's PvE. It's like from the Black Temple. And so we have that on this paladin as well. You'll notice that we don't have PvP trinket on this paladin. The reason why you don't have PvP trinket is the more durable you make your paladin, the less value you can actually get out of PvP trinket. PvP trinket is really, really good on extremely DPS heavy paladin builds or DPS classes in general, because you'll pop the trinket and you'll give you like an extra 3 to 4 seconds of uninterrupted DPS on the enemy before you inevitably catch like another CC. However, with this build and this comp is a completely different story. You're partnered with a rogue, which means the rogue is in stealth early on in the match, which means the enemy team has nothing better to do but then to try to throw CC and start damaging the paladin, aka you, in order to try to get out your PvP trinket. But you're so durable that you can just like sit through the CC that they're using on you to try to get out your PvP trinket, and effectively gain the benefits of a PvP trinket without actually needing to have a PvP trinket. You're also so insanely, you have so much healing capability that even if they CC you and they start opening up on you and stuff, your rogue friend doesn't even have to come out of the shadows right now. He can literally just wait until you heal your ass back to full before the two of you start opening up with your DPS. It's really kind of funny. So there's a noticeable devaluing of PvP trinket on this build. I could be completely wrong about that, however. PvP trinket might be an absolute must on this paladin build. So that's one statement that might not survive contact with the enemy, but I just want to look at our like plus maximum HP options. The reason why there are trinkets that will heal you, which you would think would be just as good as increasing your maximum HP, but they aren't for two reasons. The first reason is that it doesn't help you survive against incoming enemy bursts that you might know are happening. So if they stun you and then burst on you, this trinket lingers for 15 seconds, so it's much better for surviving incoming enemy bursts. The other thing, so popping it prematurely. The other thing that it does is that there's a lot of mortal strike, there's a lot of wound poison, there's a lot of reduce enemy healing by 50% that affects the healing trinkets, but increasing maximum life by X amount for a few seconds doesn't do anything like that. If you pop this trinket at like 10% life and then do nothing and let it fall off, you'll still have the HP recovery on you. You'll be at like 20% life when it actually falls off, or maybe 30. Because it, in a weird roundabout way, it heals you, and it's actually even better than healing. So it's just like, okay, interesting. But you'll notice that, Control Z, one of these we get in Phase 4. However, we do gain access to one of these even earlier in Phase 3, but we want to go even better than that. In Phase 1, there's a talisman that improves your resilience by a crap ton for Phase 1. And can heal you. This might be good in a pinch, but PvP trinket might even be better. There's whatever the fuck this thing is. Increased defense rating by 26, increased maximum health by 900 for 15 seconds. In Phase 1, 900 increased health for 15 seconds is probably on par with plus 1500 health later on in the game, because, people have less damage. So this is completely serviceable to take on your Paladin for the purposes that we're talking about. But then there's this piece of gear, which your boy is probably going to take. And everyone's going to think I'm fucking insane for taking this shit. And it's available in Phase 1, which is really fascinating. So if you take the blacksmithing profession and you go armor smith, it will give you access to two pieces of gear. One is really good in duels, and the other one is really good in the arena. This is the arena version. The one that's good in duels is the male version of this thing for an enhancement shaman that has a 30-minute cooldown on its activatable that says basically give target bop for 6 seconds. Like, it's like makes you immune to physical damage, but you can't take any offensive actions for 6 seconds. It's literally Blessing of Protection, which is hilarious, because if I'm fighting a rogue in a duel, and I have an additional Blessing of Protection that I can throw on myself for 6 seconds, I don't give a fuck that I'm wearing mail. Are you kidding me? I got a shield, I got holy shield on top of all my armor, Argent Defender. Like, yeah, give me that fucking 6 seconds. That's ridiculous. Anyways, Bulwark of Kings, however, and I'm also tickled pink by the fact that you could probably use both of them, right? So you could use the male in one duel and then the Bulwark of Kings in the next, and it might even be the case where you can have two Bulwarks of Kings. I don't know if these two guys share their cooldown with each other. Like, if I activate this guy's cooldown, is this guy's cooldown still offline? Can I have one out of date Bulwarks of Kings? You get the idea. Can I have two of these basically, but they're different enough that I can, share the cooldown? But anyways, the whole reason why we're taking a Bulwark of Kings over like PvP chest gear is the fact that it has first off, it has quite a bit of hit rating, which is really nice. But it has this activatable that is available in Phase 1 that basically says temporarily increase your HP by 1500 and strength by 150 for 15 seconds, 30-minute cooldown. And then, of course, it's available in Phase 2 as well. And then when you hit Phase 3, this thing doesn't get another update in Phase 3, I don't think. But suddenly we gain access to a legitimate Battle Master's trinket, and then, of course, in Phase 4 we get an actual Battle Master's trinket. So this thing is good for us when we need it the most, which is in Phase 1 and in Phase 2. And then after Phase 1 and Phase 2, when this thing starts falling off and we probably don't really need it anymore, we gain access to substitutes. Now, it might sound insane to rely on a 30-minute CD in Arena. I'm hoping we can activate this thing in Arena. Maybe Arena has a rule where you can't activate activatables that have longer than like a 10-minute cooldown or some crap like that. It would utterly shock me if that was a thing in TBC. But who knows, it might be. So, what is there to say here? If I get to use this thing in Arena, you bet your sweet ass I'm using this in Arena. So how it would probably work in Arena is I would get with my rogue partner, and while we're still in the lower rankings of the Arena, we would just spam Arena until we get up to 1800, 2000, somewhere around there. Getting up into the higher ranks, because what will happen is this comp will absolutely demolish Arena until you start getting into the higher ELOs, and the enemy teams become scarier, the enemy players become more competent, they get smarter and better, and going up an Arena rating is going to become harder and harder and harder over time. Once it starts becoming difficult, that's when this piece of gear is really worth its weight in gold. And it becomes totally worth it not to queue for another Arena until this fucking cooldown has reset itself. So this thing will probably carry you from 2000 Arena rating into 2200. Yeah, so that's basically my battle plan for this thing. I'll be using it in the lower ranks when it's on cooldown, but the vast majority, it's just gonna be Q spam until we get to the higher ranks of Arena, and then at the higher ranks of the Arena, if I determine that this thing is kind of necessary, I'm gonna start using it. I'm also going to take note of what comps Bulwark of King is actually necessary against. And at the higher ratings of Arena, you start recognizing and remembering people's Arena names. You do quick searches and be like, oh, that's a mage, that's it's a double mage comp, okay, well, I'm going to need to use my Bulwark of Kings for this one. Be like, oh, it's a rogue, my bad, it's a druid warlock, okay, well, I don't need to use my Bulwark of Kings, I'll put on this different chest piece and use this instead. So again, no idea if I can actually use this fucking thing in the Arena, but if I can, you better believe I'm using this. Now, so we're clear, this is actually insane, and nobody else is really going to have this idea. Well, I don't know, maybe top tier duelists will have this idea. But it's crazy because the alternative, is it Woe? No. It's Storm. The alternative is this. This is phase 1 too, right? Yeah. Let's look at it. Okay. So basically, when you're a blacksmith in TBC, your options are to go armor smithing and gain access to these to this chest piece, right? Or you can go into weapon smithing and gain access to a number of really powerful weapons. But you can only really pick one. So if you're a swordsmith, you're stuck using the sword. If you're an axesmith, you're stuck using the axe. Almost every warrior is going to go blacksmith and is going to specifically go for the Storm Herald. The Storm Herald here is by far the best phase 1 two-handed weapon in the entire game, and its proc is so disgusting that it's even better a little bit beyond that. The thing basically, doing the normal amount of really good two-handed DPS for the phase, but it's a 3.8 speed weapon when most of the two-handers are 3.6. So that's a noticeable DPS increase. It's got really fucking scary solid stats for phase 1. 42 strength, 42 agility, 61 stamina. But then its proc on hit says stuns the target for 4 seconds. The reason why every warrior and their dog wields this fucking thing is because Hammer Mastery in the arms tree also gives them a chance to stun the target. So enemy warriors just end up being like stunning machines. And it's also really good on Paladin because, Paladins just randomly stunning your target for a second or two and interrupting spellcasting is basically worth its weight in gold. So don't be surprised if a bunch of rep Paladins are also running around with Storm Herald. But your boy is like, fuck that shit. Give me the early game plus 1500 a temporary HP and strength for 15 seconds. Um, Not only does that increase in strength make up for the fact that this thing is a little low on spell power, right? Because I want 500 spell power, but I'm only at 1400. I'm at 400 currently. Not only can I make use of the entirety, so basically I can pop this thing for pure DPS if I want to, or I can pop it for increased durability and survivability purposes. It's just really, really good. So you bet your sweet ass I'm taking this into combat like 100%. And on top of that, the early phases is when we don't have access to anything really good like this. Like, all I have access to is really Bulwark of Kings and a Regal Protector, and that's really all I have access to. It's only Phase 3 and Phase 4 that we gain anything even remotely additive, to the point where I can start potentially ignoring Bulwark of the Ancients. Also, it might be so good that it suddenly becomes the case that I don't need one of these 2 HP buff trinkets anymore, and I can start using like another DPS trinket, which would solve my spell power problem, or I can use PvP trinket here and solve a bunch of other problems that way. Yeah, and like, I don't know, it's really funny. As for professions, I think the profession is going to be jewel crafting and blacksmithing. And early on in like phase 1, you can do the, what the hell is going on? Oh, we have typing in here. Okay, scroll down. You're not going to gain access to. I'm just going to type in the serpent. Blah, 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 blah. So jewel crafting gains you access to a bunch of jewel crafting trinkets. Some of these are actually really fucking good, and one of them has like a bunch of stats on it. This is like phase 5, but I'm gonna throw it on this paladin anyways, just so we can take a look at this thing. So, for example, if I was in phase 1, let's go serpent. We'll try to find the phase 1 serpent, and then we're gonna try to find regal. Okay, cool. So if I was in phase 1 and I had to swap all this gear out for phase 1, again, I have no idea what the HP breakpoints and stuff are for phase 1, but this might be something that I would go with in phase 1. So this this figurine from Jewel Crafting comes with stamina and intellect on it, which is still incredibly valuable for me, even in phase 1. But the really big deal about this thing is the only thing that changes from this trinket in phase 1 to phase 5, which is literally the end of the game, is the fact that it has more stats on it. So if I click this thing and I go serpent? Yeah, there we go. And we look at the phase 5 version, the literal difference is just plus 16 stamina and plus 10 intellect. It has the same amount of 150 spell power for 20 seconds on a 5-minute cooldown at phase 1 as it does in phase 5. And it's the exact same story that's taking place with the Bulwark of Kings here, is that 1500, 150 strength for 15 seconds is identical in phase 1 as it is in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and blah, 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 blah. So this would be some of the gear I would wear in phase 1. We got the Regal Protector here, so we have a 900 HP increase for 15 seconds. The defense is also really good. The Jade figurine here is going to do absolute wonders for helping the spell power on my burst, right? What else is there to say? And the 33 stamina is actually worth a shit ton in phase 1. So it's in a roundabout way. It's like we have some additional HP on top of that. I mean, 33 stamina is on this paladin close to 400 additional HP with all the stamina buffs that the stupid thing has. So in a roundabout way, it's not as good as push button gain a bunch of HP, but you still are gaining a significant amount of HP, and it definitely helps fix our spell power offensive problem. And then a Bulwark of Kings early on in phase 1 is just eat my ass. 1500 HP in phase 1 and 150 strength, holy crap. So early on in the game in phase 1, I'm pretty convinced I'm going to be an armor smithing blacksmith, and I'm also going to have jewel crafting, not only for the additional, like, stamina, thicker gems, which are more valuable in phase 1. So, for example, you can see that this 15 stamina gem is phase 3, whereas this, what's this thing called? Falling Star. Okay. So let's go star and see what happens. Falling Star. Yeah. So I can only put one of these into one of my gear slots, but you'll notice that it's available in phase 1. I think the gems in phase 1 are 12 stamina each, if my memory serves. Let's go blue. I want blue color. I mean, yeah, blue. Okay, cool. These are the phase 1s in blue. You got the Sparkling Star, the Falling Star, so Jewel Crafter, which is 18. Am I splitting hairs here? Is that what the fuck's about to happen? You get access to this in phase 1? Oh, but the Zulamon stuff might not even be out. I don't fucking know. Anyways, whoa, we still got access to 15? No way. 12 stamina. Okay, yeah. So the Eye of the Sea is a drop, and that's 15 stamina in phase 1. But Jewel Crafters can only cut 12s. Yeah. So you have access to like a single. It's a little bit more stamina, is basically what I'm saying. But really, what we're after is the Serpent. Early on in the game, it solves a bunch of our problems. Bulwark is going to definitely let us do, like, literally crush the higher ELOs. It will literally increase how far we can get in, how deep we can get it into the arena rating by a metric shit ton. Far more than the Herald of Woe ever will, to be honest with you. And we still have this Regal Protector. I'm going to pause the video right here and actually try to set up a phase 1 build. I'm going to have no fucking idea how good this is or how bad this is, but you guys might. So let me just do that really quick. All right, so here we are in 3D, ugly as shit, dwarf, whatever. Hammer of the Naru. I'm glad I found that. I didn't know that thing existed. I was like, what the balls? Found a nice Hammer of Naru, which is basically Twin Blade before Twin Blade, which is fucking awesome. I'm just going to have, I'm going to keep all the slots as 15 stamina, since apparently it's available in phase 1, but they're drops, so they're going to be incredibly fucking expensive. Some of these enchants might not be available, but blah, 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 blah. Ooh, and that might not be available down there, but whatever. You get the idea. Let's see what's happened to our HP. Our HP has not dropped for fuck all. 12,600-ish HP in phase 1 is absolutely fucking insane. Our spell power is crap, but we do have the figurine that we can activate, so that'll shoot that up to very close to 500, which is exactly where we want to be. PvP resilience is what people says is low in this phase, but ours is reasonably decent. Oh, I forgot to switch this out, didn't I? Okay, whatever. This is a phase 3er. It's a good question. 1 second. Gotta do the cloak. Sergeant's, that's probably right. Sergeant's heavy cape. What are we, a plus healing one? Okay. Where's the plus healing one? Huh. Pure of Heart. Doesn't really matter. That'll do, donkey. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's 12,500 HP. We are perfectly Gucci. This thing is going to be so fucking hard to kill, it's not even funny. What is our spell power at? Let's look at it. So we've lost about 100 spell power. I have no idea what's going to happen if I swap these out, but our spell power is probably still perfectly fine. All the HP breakpoints and whatnot that we had before was for a phase 3 and beyond Paladin. This thing is insanely durable. Like, what the fuck? Like, if I took this thing in phase 1 gear into phase 4, phase 5 arena, because I played phase 5 arena, this thing will do just fine in phase 5 arena. Like, 100%. Mostly it'll do fine because it still has kind of, mostly due to Bulwark of Kings, I think, is worth its weight in gold. But this thing is just a war in a fucking can. Apparently, I gotta go to Hammer of Naru. Where the hell does a Hammer of Naru drop from? Hammer of Naru. Hammer of Naru. Alright, let's go look that up. Where do I need to go to get this thing? 15% chance, Gru's Lair. Okay, whatever. Shouldn't be too hard to get then. That's funny. Yeah, so anyways, war in a fucking can. War in a fucking can, this piece of shit. I'm terrified of this. This is fucking scary. Wait. This is phase 3, isn't it? Okay, let's stop that. Let's go glad. It might get better, because there might be... No, because the synergy bonus wouldn't matter. What is this? This is an ornate gloves, right? Yeah, okay. Boom. Alright, so yeah, we're getting much closer to the 2,500 HP mark now. Are we missing anything else? General, stainless, general, vindicator. Like phase 3. Fuck. I thought I switched this out with something else. Guess not. Come on, dummy. Sad thing is, I know what we're after. Isn't that... This is Karazhan? What the hell? Whatever, it's down here somewhere. Like talisman of... I think it's this thing. Yeah? Okay. That should lower our stamina a good bit. Okay, cool. We finally phase 1. Oh, I know what it did. When I went into 3D, it probably reset some shit. That makes sense. Violet. Yeah. No, this is still plenty. We are still Gucci. That is still a fuck ton of HP, honestly, for phase 1. Resilience, not that bad. I like it. So anyways, I'm pretty much out. Done talking about this thing. I just wanted to look at what it looks like in phase 1. Like, how hard is it to gear? How bad has our HP suffered? We've lost, like, what is that? About 1,000 hit points, somewhere around there, going from A to B. That is not a significant enough drop-off to warrant our concern. Also, we have our Jade figurine is currently Super Saiyan in phase 1, and our Bulwark of the Kings is also Super Saiyan in phase 1. So, we could do some math here really quick. If a Fire Mage wanted to burst this guy out of existence, now keep in mind I can activate the Bulwark of Kings and survive one of them. I can activate the Regal Protector and survive another one. What I'd probably do is I would activate a Regal Protector just to guarantee that I'd probably activate one and then the other. I don't know what I would do. Would I activate this? Whatever. Let's look at what our effective HP is. Because there's... Let's see. We're at like 12,200. Let's get another calculator up here. 12,200 times 0.7 equals... Yeah, that's our standing HP. Okay, cool. And then we would have 12,200 times 0.3. Okay, cool. And then we multiply this by 1.5 because of Argent Defender. And then I add 5,490 to this thing. So even before we pop any of our trinkets or do whatever the fuck, we basically got 14,000 standing effective HP. Popping the trinkets would be interesting. So let's say I pop them prematurely. I'm like, I don't want to die to this mage bursting on me. I'll use bubble in the first mage burst, but in the second mage burst, I'm going to activate the Regal Protector and I'm going to activate the Bulwark of Kings. Like, you know, just say full send it, whatever the fuck. HP would do the following. It would be 2,200 plus 900 from one of these equals plus what the fuck? No, 22,000 plus 900 equals plus 1,500 equals times 0.7 equals, okay, so it's, what is that? That is 14,600. Yeah, 14,600. Come on. Let's do this thing. 14,600 times 0.3 equals times 1.5 equals plus 6,570 blah. Yeah, so very close to 17,000 HP that the enemy burst comp has to get through. Like, good fucking luck. So this is the most unideal usage of both of those abilities, right? We had to pop them at the same time, and we had to pop them outside of Argent Defender. If we got to use them within Argent Defender, and the only time we'd really do that is if we're being pressured super fucking hard by like a double rogue comp for whatever reason. Or I pop them both offensively to gain me noticeable increase in durability so I can DPS a bit longer on my enemies. What would happen in that case would be 12, 22. We got to go back to the 1400. I think it was literally 14,000 if I recall correctly. Times 0.7 equals 12,200 times 0.3 equals times 1. We're not done. We are not done. Clear. Fuck. 12,000 times 0.3 equals, and now we got to add 900 equals plus 1,500 equals times 1.5 equals, and then we add plus 9,090 equals. Okay, so in the unideal circumstances, we have like 1,600 HP, and in the ideal circumstances, we have 1,700 or 17,600 HP. So noticeable increases, but not as much as you would think. Considering that that's quite a bit of an increase. Considering that the base increase is only whatever the hell this is, I think it's 2,400, right? 1,500 plus 900. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Gaining an additional 1,500 HP off of that due to Argent Defender is absolutely disgusting. Holy crap. Yeah, well, you're not putting this thing down any fucking time soon. This, again, like I said before, if I took this into Phase 5 Arena, where people are wearing basically a mix of Vengeful and Brutal Gladiator gear, probably do just fucking fine in this thing. I would hope my Rogue is properly geared, but this thing would be just fine. In Phase 1, going to be an absolute fucking war in a can. Anyways, on the video here, Deus Vault, no idea what the hell the plus healing is. That's probably the last thing to look at. There should be some Glad weapons for this, right? You can just type in Glad. Okay, cool. Let's try to find the plus healing ones. Vengeful, Gladiator, Salvation, that's 3. Glad, Salvation, okay, cool. And then it would be like the shield, right? The Reprieve. Resilience rating? What? So, what is it instead? Okay, let's not concern ourselves with phase too much. Let's go all the way up to... Let's go level. Let's find level like 122 or whatever the hell it is. This is phase 2, homie. So you mean to tell me that there's not like a spell power shield? Is that what the fuck you're trying to tell me in phase 1? They don't exist? I have to go into Magtheridon's lair to find a spell power shield, and it's got no fucking stamina on it. Fascinating. Oh, what's this? Vendor in shit, no, it's phase 4. Vendor in shit-ass city has a shield for you. Huh. The Botanica. Alright, well, I'm willing to downgrade. Increase the block value of shield. Shield. Blades Edge Mountains. Alright. Dawn Ford. Vendor in Quel'Tha. That's phase 5, homie. Okay, this is Karazhan. Phase 1. Stamina, Intellect, Spell Power, Mana. Alright, I guess we'll put that on instead. And then I'm going to do like the 18 stamina or whatever to shield. Alright, now we're going to go look at the plus healing. Scroll down, check out plus healing. What are we at? I'm feeling like 1,300 would be a perfectly fine breakpoint. Wow, plus healing went down significantly. How fascinating. It's only at 1,200. Well, 1,400 was the minimum breakpoint in the other one. So hopefully 1,200 is more than enough. If not, we might have to make some changes, but I'm pretty sure it's fucking more than enough. Jesus Christ. This is a mix of Lamellar, like I said before, and plus healing gear. If the plus healing gear is determined to not be enough at 1200 and 20, basically what will happen is we'll sacrifice that, like, percent of PvP resilience in exchange for some more plus healing. Also, there might be a judgment in phase 1 because they don't have a lot of good ones that can increase your plus healing if it really needed to. Wait a minute. Are these ones pretty good in phase 1? Shield, what? Justice, Flash of Light, Fortitude. I remember they all sucked. Okay, this is Judgment increased by 26. That's not so bad. That's phase 4. Yeah, I have no idea what the breakpoint is. Oh, one last thing to talk about, of course. You still do have Reckoning in TBC. I mean, this thing is literally a Heal-Reckoning Paladin. The stats, of course, are 8 in Holy, so they can actually heal. You do that in conjunction with Improved Concentration Aura, 3 out of 3. Improved Concentration Aura is so good in TBC, putting 3 points into it is kind of a must. That's why we don't have Hammer of Justice. And then we're taking Eye for an Eye instead of this other stuff, because I've learned to value Eye for an Eye over the years. Eye for an Eye, it causes spell pushback when enemies are trying to kill you, which is usually worth it. Way more value. It lowers enemy incoming DPS by such a significant amount that it makes It does 2 things. It lowers incoming enemy DPS when enemy spellcasters are trying to kill you when you're trying to out heal their damage. The other thing that it does is it causes spell pushback against a lot of bursts, spellcasting bursts in the game, making the burst kind of non-viable against a paladin. So those 2 things in conjunction are what's making me value it more than Hammer of Justice. The other thing that Eye for an Eye does is that it synergizes incredibly well with everything else that we have going on with this paladin. To the point where 2 mages might actually be able to blow this paladin up if they get really lucky on RNG. But in order to get lucky on RNG, they had to crit the ever-loving fucking shit out of me. And Eye for an Eye might do so much damage to them under those circumstances that my rogue ally can actually just eat them alive anyways. There's other beneficial things out of it, such as there are not a lot of ways for a paladin to DPS their enemy while they themselves are stuck trying to heal themselves back to full life. Reckoning in Classic World of Warcraft used to be one of those because you'd end up stacking Reckoning charges while you were healing yourself. Not so much in TBC because of how the new Reckoning worked, but Eye for an Eye is completely unchanged. So while I'm trying to heal myself or while I'm DPSing, Eye for an Eye is still going to be there for me from a damage reflect perspective. But really, it's there for the spell pushback primarily. What else is there to say? There will be times in Arena, and there are, where the enemy team decides that the best thing to do is to try to kill me, the paladin specifically, before we kill them. So it'll be like, let's say it's a druid and shaman, or this happens more commonly with like resto shaman and priest, where even though we're jumping all over the priest and we're jumping all over the shaman, they're still trying to cast spells on us, particularly the fucking shamans. So if I go tools, talent calculator, shaman, the priests try to cast spells on you when they activate their bubble shield. So they'll activate their bubble shield, they'll activate like their pain suppression, and a combination of those 2 things, especially when your rogue ally is low energy, makes them feel very comfortable to stop trying to heal themselves, because they have 5 out of 5 wound poison on them, so good fucking luck healing. And they start blasting you with like mind blasts and shit, and their mind blasts have like a plus 50% chance to crit because they're like a fucking shadow priest. Blah, 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 blah. They decide that the best course of action is to try to kill that paladin before they themselves die. The reason why they choose to do this is because you're not healing yourself as the paladin, and they're not used to fighting Argent Defender paladins, so they just see you at 30% life, and they think to themselves, kill that paladin before the paladin and the rogue kill me, right? And when they pull the trigger on that, one, they're not going to succeed because you're in Argent Defender and you have all the I push button and I'm still alive. So in a weird way, you're kind of tricking them and baiting them into trying to kill you, right? That's another way that you can really leverage the push button and I go up in HP in conjunction with Argent Defenders to try to bait the enemies into making stupid decisions, thinking that they can kill you. But eye for an eye, I mean, if that thing crits, they're gonna die so much fucking faster because not only did they not bother to heal themselves, but they bothered to try to attack you, and the reflect damage is just gonna bitch slap them in the face. Happens far more consistently with shamans, however, because the shamans have the Eye of the Storm, which means they're going to be suffering no spell pushback whatsoever while we're trying to kill them, and they're... Amy, I'm making a video. Shut the fuck up. Jesus. Yeah. All right, moving on. She heard me making a video, left the house, and then came back, and yeah, it's just how my wife works. I don't know what to tell you. Let's see. What the heck are we talking about here? Right. So there is a... the shamans will do annoying things. Like, they still have their nature's swiftness, right? And they have eye for an eye. So what they'll do is they'll basically start hard casting like a chain lightning into you or some shit like that. And once they've completed the chain lightning, they like nature swiftness out like a lightning bolt or some shit. And they just try to hit you as hard as they fucking can. Because again, they're dying. They can see that they're dying. And they're thinking to themselves, oh, that paladin has 30% life. Let me just Kamehameha on his ass. They're hoping that it crits, and you you don't care either way. You're just like, oh, that's cute. Hey, let me push button and just shoot my HP back up. And oh, by the way, you're super fucking dead now because of the eye for an eye reflect damage. So combination of that, absolutely amazing. But what it really does for you, the eye for an eye, is remember when I said that us having thicker durability allows us to go longer without actually having to heal ourselves, which lets us DPS more on the target. Eye for an Eye does that in its own way too, because a lot of times while you're jumping on the enemy healer with your rogue friend, you're being DPS'd on by a spellcaster. Spellcaster's just opening up on you like mad. He's like basically like it's a PvE fight practically. The eye for an eye reflect damage to the enemy spellcaster isn't doing much because he's not under threat of dying, but it's the fact that it causes spell pushback every now and then, which is worth thousands of HP on your paladin, which just means that you can go longer without actually having to kill them. And so all these things put together are making me value it more than getting a Hammer of Justice back, getting my second Hammer of Justice quicker in Arena. I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet my money on Eye for an Eye being the way to go. Anyways, I'm in the video here, and Day Assault. My wife is... What the fuck? Alright, I gotta deal with my wife. Day Assault.